Well, the Deputy Minister of Social Development will later this morning launch a district men's parliament in Randfontein in Johannesburg. The district men's parliament will serve as a platform for boys and men to teach and encourage each other about the roles of males that play in the prevention of HIV, gender-based violence and other social ills. According to the Department of Social Development, today's launch follows the inception of the National Men's Parliament in November 2018 in Cape Town. With us to discuss this further is Deputy Minister of the Department of Social Development, Hendrietta Bogopane-Zulu. Minister, thank you very much indeed for coming through. Firstly, let's talk about the significance of having a men's parliament. We're approaching Women's Month next month, but why is it so important to have this men's parliament now?
Let's remind each other, and thank you for having us, that this is actually the Men's Month. I think the month is always taken over by the Mandela Month. So poor men, you guys get lost in translation. So we needed to always remind South Africa. We launching the district parliaments after we had launched that program, Championing Change, Men and Boys Championing Change, as our vehicle to actually begin to get men engaged. We hosted the national parliament, we hosted the provincial parliaments, we're now going to have the 52 district parliaments. The idea is that parliament, it's in a South African context and in a reality. I mean, if you watch the National Assembly every day, you know, we're creating space for men to have conversations. We're creating space for men without race, creed, class, all of those barriers that people have before they can strike a conversation. We're clearing that and saying, let's find and mobilize South African men to help us fight all the social ills that they contribute to.
They are indeed, no doubt, pressing social issues. As I've mentioned, we talk about HIV/AIDS, we talk about gender-based violence. How would this parliament actually work? I mean, when you gather these men, and some would say, to push back on this initiative, that those people that come to these organizations or these parliaments, you're speaking to the converted already. These are not the problem people.
Not true, hey? Because we set a criteria from the drug addict to the homeless man to the very... So we as a department actually determines who is going to be there. But we've also set up men structures. That takes responsibility from the man that sits in the prison. So we're making sure that we prescribe the categories of men. That's the first thing. The second thing, we make sure that it's not the same men that are coming to these things. Isn't it when you arrive, you fill in a register? But what we have done also to back up and make sure that this is sustainable, we have engaged the services of Sonke Gender Justice so that like now we are in the West Rand, launching the district parliament, they are going to do a research and an audit of which men's services exist there, who operates there, how many men are entrepreneurs there, what are the real challenges of boys there, and we will then design, because what we will also be launching is the district-based men's leadership forum. So that after the parliament, the resolutions and what the men in West Rand would have said, there are people that are staying there in West Rand that are going to say, okay, we are launched, the parliament has happened. Sonke Gender Justice would say, social development, this is what we found. We found a CBO run by Babe, whatever his name is. He's doing 1, 2, 3, 4. Then we will go. So we will then go and meet and then say, in the West Rand, this is how the program will be sustainable.
Right. So taking this forward, we're talking about men as well as boys, and I think it's very important to tackle the youngsters at this stage. What about taking this to the school environment? Because that's where, you know, these bad traits are learnt often. I'm not talking about specifically in school, but it's at times learnt at home, and it develops over the years. So tackling it at a very young age is key here, isn't it?
Very key. Remember, social development remains responsible for the early childhood development. centers. Children 0 to 4 years old are in our care. We have launched and we've trained our ECD practitioners. First and foremost, we've trained them on 5 things that children will learn through play, exactly to achieve what you are saying. Where alcohol and the danger of alcohol and its abuse, the issue of drugs and the different drugs and the addictive and all of that, but through play and coloring and poetry and song, we've taught our children the issues of sex and how not to get involved in sex. But we also teaching our children what we call respect your future wife or respect your future husband, my body, my life. Because we believe that when we instill those principles, we will be able to address. So they leave ECT with a better outlook. But at a school, we also have what we call, what is this? We have the different clubs.
Right. I mean, the language we use as parents and the behavior we encourage as parents is also very important because it influences the boy child as well. And, the phrase, boys will be boys, doesn't cut it anymore, is it?
Not at all, not at all, not at all.
Yeah.
It's actually the wrong language to use. And that is why 2 years ago, the department realized that one of the biggest problems that contribute to the bigger scheme of the drama that we are having is its lack of parenting. Not the zero lack of parenting, but how to parent. Because now children have children while they are children, and grandparents are parents a second time around, but raising a different generation. The village that used to be the safety net isn't the village as we know it anymore. So as we lose all those things, we've introduced what we call the positive parenting program, and also launched the Strengthening Families program. I must be honest, we have it all covered on paper. We know what the problem is. We know what needs to be done. And we have started doing programs like Isibindi, which is we've trained 10,000 child and youth care workers, and they are out there as a way of augmenting the parenting aspect and looking after children to reduce all of those things. So slowly but surely, there are programs we now need to scale up. As a matter of yesterday.
Right. Look, it's an important initiative, and no doubt we will have you back here to talk about the successes and also if it fails, because we will test you on it. We'll bring you back and test you on it in terms of why things have failed. Thank you very much indeed, though, for coming through.
We will be through.
Thank
and
you
we
very
will
much.
be back.
Appreciate it. That was the Deputy Minister of Development for Department of Social Development, Hendrietta Bogopane-Zulu.